Hello, everybody. This is Joe Payne. Welcome to Political Pain today. This is not my normal Friday show. We're doing something a little different today. And this is my first, what I want to do, start doing on the regs is live interviews, long form interviews. On my regular Friday live stream, I've been including pre-recorded interviews, and that really doesn't allow for a lot of interaction with the chat stream. So I want to incorporate that, of course. I want to have everybody possible involved. But that's enough of an introduction. I want to welcome my first guest on Political Pain, fantastic artist. Welcome him to the first live interview version of Political Pain. That's J. Andrew World. Hey, Andy, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good. How you doing, Joe?
How you doing? I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. Huzzah.
Well, so for people who don't know, J. Andrew World is a visual artist, comic book artist extraordinaire. I met him through the, because obviously I became aware of your work as the artist for the cover art of Michael Brooks's book. A huge Michael Brooks fan. May he rest in power forever. Devastated by his loss. We'll talk about that in a second. But I just want to let everybody see the cover of Against the Web. Here it is. And I remember what I love about what I noticed from the beginning. I have my copy here in the house is all the different characters you have in here. I'm not sure everybody could see, but this is obviously Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson. There's Michael. There's Dave Rubin. Who's this guy? I wondered. Ben Shapiro. This is obviously one of the Weinstein brothers.
I think that's Sam Harris.
Of course, Sam Harris.
He's kind of dull looking, so it's nothing really stands out about him.
So Michael pulled me out of Sam Harris world, and I will always be grateful to him for that. But tell us a bit about yourself, Andy. How did you get into visual art? Was that like always your thing? Were you the kid in the back of class drawing caricatures of your teachers and all other stereotypes like that?
Yeah, pretty much. I started off. I remember in high school. Since you want to go back that far, you want to go back further, don't you? But anyways, no. When I was in high school, I remember I had one teacher that would say, like, you could write an essay or you can draw a picture of what happened. So first day of class, like 3 football players would draw like this crappy drawing like 5 minutes before class started. And I spent the entire night drawing like this ornate image of like this guy going through this trailway of skulls that are stacked up to meet the devil.
Wow.
Like some early American author. It was, I can't remember which story it was. And like basically all the football players are just like, oh, we're not going to draw anymore. We're just going to write the papers.
So since you were good, you had all the work put on you, it sounds like.
Yeah, but the good news is I didn't have to write any papers for that class. I just had to draw some really cool pictures.
Hey, well, there you go.
Keep it at that skull level.
Yeah, well, let's rely on the talents of, every member of the team brings their own stuff. But so, how long have you been doing comic work? And then how did you get into, doing comics, doing artwork for the online left? Because I should add, you didn't just do the cover for Michael Brooks. You're doing all kinds of art for Ben Burgis' fantastic show. You've done some for my show. I'll show it in a minute, but and
James Cash.
Yeah, Cole James Cash, and go ahead and riff some others. But what got you involved in that community online?
Well, we kind of go back a bit. After I got done with school, I spent a lot of time hanging out at the Word of Pictures Museum and trying to break into comics that way, and it never quite worked out. which was fine. But I do have lots of cool stories if you ever want to hear any of them about like people I've met and stuff. And ended up started illustrating magazines, like fanzines and whatnot. One fanzine I worked for came this close to getting a Hugo nomination. Unfortunately, they would have had enough votes, but they ended up getting like voted in 2 different categories, and so it wasn't quite enough for either category. Yeah, so I never kind of missed out as saying oh look, I worked on something that got a Hugo nomination.
You got close.
But, yeah, very close.
All right.
But, like, yeah, Insider said like if they combined the 2 numbers together, we would have been in.
Okay, well there you go. Hey, close enough for horseshoes and hand grenades, but looks like we got a bunch of people welcoming you, Andy.
Yeah.
Thank you for such good promotion. You were promoting this thing much better than I was, so I appreciate it. I was just sharing your things that you shared, but you plugged it on Ben Burgis' show. You plugged it in the comments of This Is Revolution. I believe Jason is live right now doing something, but
he is.
Great show.
And also Left Reckoning, which I think a few people from there are here.
Oh, fantastic. Wait, did I get a shout out on Left Reckoning too? Were you plugging it there?
No, they didn't mention anything on screen. They don't usually do the interactive stuff on Left Reckoning on the main show. So
I see. So sorry about that. I'm trying to share something as you talk here, but go ahead. And so how did you connect with the online left? Did it start with Michael Brooks?
Started way before that, actually. During the Bush administration, I kept trying to find my voice doing things. And, like I was finding stuff. It just wasn't quite connecting. And then the Arab Spring happened. And I started thinking I should do a comic about the Arab Spring. And I kind of was like hesitating a little bit because I don't know much about the, I know probably more than your average person on the street about the Middle East, but like that doesn't mean like I can write a book about it. And so I was just like, I don't know. And I was like starting to do research and trying to figure out how to do this. And then the Wisconsin Uprising happened. And so I started doing a webcomic about the Wisconsin Uprising and ended up getting involved with the campaign for governor for Arthur Cole Riggs.
Oh, wow.
Who ran as a Republican, primaried Scott Walker in the recall election. He ran as a Lincoln Republican.
Interesting. A progressive Republican.
Yeah, he wore the top hat, grew in a little chin beard.
Wow. So it was a bit of a skullduggery a little bit, right? You were
a little bit. I mean, it was, a small part of like, he got 25% of the vote, Republican vote in Madison. So, it's not bad.
Nothing to shake a stick at or whatever. The same.
Yeah, it was like a small campaign, but like it was really awesome. And my webcomic kind of just covered like all the weird little things, like the balloon that got stabbed by somebody's aide. Like he cornered a woman and stabbed her balloon.
Oh my gosh, that's childish.
There was a former senator who, from Wisconsin who got mad at the protesters and was like trying to run them down with his wheelchair. I mean, like there's just so many insane stories. And
jeez.
I didn't even have to work hard at this webcomic. I did that for about a couple of years.
Wow. So remind for the folks and people watching, everybody, thank you for haven't already. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. But why don't you, if you could you remind folks what exactly was the Wisconsin Uprising?
Well, in 2010, Scott Walker was elected, and the first thing he did as governor was to basically wipe out union rights for everybody but like public, first responders.
Yeah.
So the police, fire, and I think I can't remember first response. Like the ambulance people. Like the kind of first responders was also included. But I know police and fire were excluded from this Title 10, if I remember correctly, the name of it. It's been a little bit since I've looked at this stuff. So, and the big thing was going to hit was teachers, and so like all these teachers were going to like lose these rights, lose the ability to collectively bargain. They were worried about the size of like the quality of the classrooms, and they actually got the people of Wisconsin there at the Capitol. They stayed there overnight, slept for weeks in the middle of a cold Wisconsin winter. Constantly being there, ever vigilant. And Scott Walker pushed this thing. The senators, actually, let me step back. The Democratic senators of Wisconsin fled the state so they wouldn't have a quorum to allow the protesters to actually like build momentum and really kind of swing public opinion. And there was just like so much crazy stuff that was going on. At times, Scott Walker would lock down the Capitol, and so all the Democratic senators just had their desks moved outside and would meet with their constituents outside. It was absolutely incredible, like all the insane things that Scott Walker tried and failed, and the lies that he said about the protesters. It's like, the halls are covered in poop.
What we actually saw on January 6th that Trump supporters did, you mean? Wow.
Yes.
Also interesting, Harvey J.K. was at the Wisconsin Uprising. I heard him in an interview talking about that not too long ago.
That's how I first became aware of him, although he didn't become aware of me until like last December.
Okay. Have you drawn him yet?
Yes. Yeah, that's what actually finally got his attention. People have been whispering in his ear about me for a while, too. And he's like, oh, you.
Oh, you're the guy.
Yeah, it's not the first time I've gotten that. So,
Well, speaking of drawing, let's look at a little bit of your artwork really quick. So I already shared the cover of Against the Web, which is just so much fun to look at. But you actually shared with me on Facebook. I don't know if I'm out of school here showing this right now, but you actually shared with me like a rough draft you did for it, or one of the alternates.
Showing that around a little bit.
Yeah, one of the alternates, right? And I just find this one so damn funny because clearly we have that's our dearly departed Michael Brooks in the center here. This is like a bit of a take on The Last Supper. Am I right?
Yeah. I was. I can't remember I was actually using a composition from a specific artist with Judas like leaning on Jesus and.
Okay, well, and of course, Judas is Tim Pool, the iconic beanie, but we also have Alex Jones on the far left, Charlie Kirk here on the left standing, obviously Dave Rubin with his signature coif there. We have, Ben Shapiro, or whatever you want to call him, and then Jordan Peterson. That's a really good, like, in the moment Jordan Peterson speaking. But you told me a hilarious anecdote about something Michael said about Tim Pool here. You want to share that with everybody?
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, Michael's like, "Don't make me Jesus. Just don't." So like that was the first thing.
Too late.
Then he started thinking like, I might be able to use this for the show, and I'm like, I should try. I wanted to put the background being the restaurant from The Godfather, and he's like, "Do it."
That would be great. Oh,
but I never did, and then I couldn't bring myself to finish it after he passed, so. I kind of feel bad about that, but anyways, and he's just like, "Who's that leaning his head on my shoulder?"
And that should be hopefully the proper reply to any depiction of Tim Pool. Who is that person?
That's what I told him.
Yeah, that's part of what bothers me so much about the intellectual dark web and these characters. Is just like. I have to know about these people. I have to know who Jordan Peterson is and what crazy arguments he's making. I have to know about the Weinstein brothers or whoever. It's frustrating. It frustrates me.
Yeah, so actually almost didn't put Michael on the book cover because of that.
Because of why? Because there's just so many.
Because he didn't want to be on the book cover.
Oh.
And then Doug made me do it, which I'm like, okay, Hey, you're the one who's actually paying me, not Michael. So
yeah, the publisher said.
Although I feel really bad because the last thing Michael ever asked me was to have his name changed to Michael Jamal Brooks, and like I wasn't in charge of that, and I didn't say anything to Doug before it went to print.
Oh no!
I told him to talk to Doug, but so I don't know. I don't know what happened because of that, but.
Oh, so you're also are you the in-house art director or whatever it might be for you're a contractor.
Doug has somebody else doing the graphic design. He just brings me in for the occasional illustration. I got my second Zero book coming out real soon.
You have your own book in zero
No,
books?
no. I did another
Sorry.
book cover. So
Oh, okay.
I'm very territorial for the book cover. So like Michael is my book as well. So
Well, there you go. There you go. So if for anyone who doesn't know, Zero Books, independent book publisher, Doug Lane is the guy you're talking about. Great YouTube channel, great publishing house, a lot of socialist, far left, the far left. Yeah, they do a lot of great stuff. So we have a few comments in here. Jules T, rest in peace, Michael. Rest in power, Michael. Absolutely, miss him every day. John Ross, who is also moderating, folks, be nice to John, says, now there's what I would like to call the new IDW. Or what does he say? Oh, the new IDW, Rubin, Greenwald, Gabbard, and Dorr. Wow, that's interesting. That's funny. Hey, and Jules T also says, Andy, J. Andrew World, is also very knowledgeable on music. It's very nuanced. He definitely gets the various cultural zeitgeist. I know just about every day, Andy, depending on the context or whatever conversation, you're sending me some piece of music I've never heard about. But really quick. Of course, yeah, something for every occasion, right? Your Dashiki comment, I know I said I wouldn't mention it. In the comments of This Is Revolution, you had one for that too. But really quick, everybody, J. Andrew World, of course, drew the drawing that I hit him up to do, of course, for Political Pain. So this is the one I've been using. He did another one for me, in a lot of my cover art and whatnot. So I just want to say thanks, Jay. Thanks, Andy, because I just love. I've always been a fan of this line drawing. I mean, who were some of the people when you were coming up that kind of it gripped you, that style? I imagine it must have.
Bernie Wrightson's the big one for me. Even though I don't feel like my stuff looks remotely like Bernie Wrightson, and I know. I always think about like, what would Bernie do? He was my first Bernie. He's passed on, and now I have a second Bernie. We all need at least. Yeah, we all need at least one Bernie. I had two for a brief while, but Bernie Wrightson, especially his Frankenstein work. I remember whenever I used to go to the Word and Pictures Museum, I would always spend at least a good 10, 15 minutes just staring at the same piece of like Frankenstein, this monster holding the doctor, with all the bottles behind him. And it's just an incredible piece. And to actually see that work in person, it was just amazing.
Wow, that is great. Very
never having dinner with him, but that's another story.
What? Wow. You got.
I told you I had stories.
He's got the stories, folks. He's got.
I don't know. You want me to go off on a tangent here?
Hey, you know what? I'm okay with that. This is long form interview style Political Pain. So give me the tangent. Let's go burrow down a rabbit hole real quick.
Okay. So basically, he was doing a speech about his work at the museum. It was fantastic, and he talked about working with Stephen King and working on Ghostbusters and all the amazing stuff that he's done over the years, creating Swamp Thing to, I think the latest thing right about the time we met was his Batman versus Aliens.
Wow.
Just incredible stuff. But he was out having a cigarette because he was a chain smoker. He died of cancer. He was out having a cigarette, and we're having a conversation, and we're just kind of discussing things, and we're having this nice little conversation, and this English guy explodes out of the museum. It's like, Benny, buddy, it's great to see you. It's great. Let's go grab a beer. And I'm like, oh, there goes my conversation with Bernie Wrightson. And the British guy just turns to me and the other people just hanging out there, and it's like, hey guys, want to come? Just like,
oh, okay. Wow. So you got to go hang out and have beers with like your hero.
Yes, gets better. It gets better.
Let's hear it. Keep going.
So, takes me to we go to this place. Bernie's with his two kids. They were like 8 and 10 at the time, and they're just like, Dad, is he Australian? He's like, no, son, he's English. He's like, goes into the English guy goes into the bar, disappears. He's like, we're going to Rumbach. They got a private room for us.
Wow.
Yeah. So we go into the private room. It's myself, Bernie Wrightson, the British guy. Two people who worked at the museum. The other people who were hanging out just bailed, and Bernie's two kids. And we're sitting there, and the British guy just starts going like, "Yeah, I'm leaving Hellblazer, and I'm starting to do this work for Jimmy and Joe, and he's like, oh, I'm doing work for Jimmy and Joe too. What are you doing?"
Oh.
He's like, I was like, yeah. I was like, who is this guy? And he stops in the middle of all this, just goes, "It's rather rude. I've introduced myself. Name's Paul." I'm like, this is Paul Jenkins.
Whoa. You have to explain who that is.
Yeah, Paul Jenkins ended up writing Inhumans, was one of his big Marvel titles.
Oh, okay,
he also wrote the Wolverine's Origin and Wolverine's Origin.
Wow.
Yeah, he his stuff's hit or miss, to be honest with you, but like his run in Hellblazer is fantastic. And if you really, if you like John Constantine, I highly recommend his run in Hellblazer in the 90s. Got great artwork too in that run. And
wow. And you mentioned the Frankenstein's monster. Is this the one right here? Oh, wait.
I think you just had it.
That one?
Yes, and the set? No, it's not that one.
Similar.
No, there's another one. It's where the monster's actually holding him by the collar.
Okay, so this is
very similar composition, but
this is kind of a gallery of his
almost gray
of his stuff. This is on his website, Bernie Wrightson.
Yeah, I think the book might be out of print. It keeps going in and out of print every few years.
Okay.
Absolutely
very cool.
worth tracking down if you can find it.
All right.
But yeah, it was just these gorgeous illustrations.
Wow.
But yeah, one of them, he's got the.
But I'm trying to think of what I must have grown up seeing that I just love line drawing.
Yeah, probably going to Wendy's and looking at the table there where they have the old advertisements.
No. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe. Yeah. I grew up playing piano, so a lot of old piano music has like cover art, ragtime or even classical music has cover art that has a lot of that, easy for engravers to, just push onto the page. But very cool. And so, so it was there more to that story, or you just not only?
There's a lot more if you don't want me to, because it was the beers and. It's fine. It's enough.
All right. Andy's got a lot of stories, everybody. Whoop, I just knocked my headphones out. But very cool, man. So, and let's see. So we talked about, you did the artwork for, Michael Brooks. You've been doing all this other stuff, including for my channel here, my fledgling small channel, as it were. But you also have another project in the works, right? And you're kind of pitching it out. You're doing some stuff. We're going to, not going to explain all of that.
There's no contracts or anything signed. So
of course, but tell us about what you're working on these days.
Besides working for Ben?
Of course, you're like I said earlier, the in-house. Hold on, maybe, is there a way I can just see some of the thumbnails if I went to Ben Burgis's channel?
You could probably do it that way. You can also, if you go to my Instagram, I got a lot of them up there mixing with some other stuff, but it's mostly Ben stuff. It's lately.
Do you know which one I am thinking about? That's my favorite. That from recent memory. Can you guess?
Is it Starship Troopers?
No, that one's really good. But that one's really good. We'll look at
Robocop?
that. But no, still not. It is this one.
Jordan. Oh yes,
on Kermit's body, because everybody, everybody talks about how Jordan Peterson has a Kermit the Frog voice. And I don't know. See, as a fan of the impression, the arts of the impression. Someone's asking here. Did you do the artwork for Ben's first book? Give them an argument.
No, that's Ryan Lake who did that one.
Ryan Lake. That's what I thought. I didn't think it looked like your art.
No. Ryan's got this great sense of humor and actually knows philosophy way better than I do, because he's actually a philosophy professor. And he does a comic about philosophy. So Chaos Pet is his comic. Go check it out. He's fantastic.
All right. Jules T is laugh my ass off about the Jordan Peterson. Me too. Yeah. So everybody says Jordan Peterson has a kind of a Kermit voice. But if you know your voices, Kermit the Frog is up here in the top of his, like, you got to use the top of your mouth and the back of your voice, like the back of your throat, top of your mouth, right? But like Jordan Peterson is much more like this. He's much more upset all the time and plaintive. And Michael Brooks's impression was fantastic, where he would just go really high like this, right? So there's all these different ranges. But I just this is hilarious. Like,
I was actually the initial plan was for Ben's debunks series was to do because I did all the drawing. I just never put it all together for him because my computer died right about this time.
That's a shame.
Yeah, but it was like this drawing of like Ben looking down and kind of disgusted at like Kermit the Frog, Jordan Peterson, and then there's a Ernie from Sesame Street with Tucker Carlson's head on his face crying. And
oh my gosh!
Who's the other one? There's one more. There's it's Bert's body, and I forgot.
Is that on your Instagram or is this just on that computer?
It might be too old unless you keep scrolling way back. I don't remember if I got it up on Instagram or not.
Robocop one was really cool. I mean,
yes.
This is just if you like Robocop. I mean, check that out. I love it. There's Red Foreman, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, put a boot in your ass, Robocop.
Robocop's a dumbass.
Yeah. This one is interesting. This is Jimmy Dore with Jeff Epstein.
Yes. Well, the whole thing is like if you're mad about Jimmy Dore and you're not mad about like Epstein, there's like this big this interesting argument that was being made.
Oh, yeah. What do we
I wasn't told the argument. I was just told draw Jimmy Dore and Jeffrey Epstein. I'm like, okay.
If I were to put on my Ben Burgis hat really quick, I would say red herring and non sequitur are two of the logical fallacies that I think are being employed. But then we got to do the Starship Troopers because this episode is upcoming, right?
Yes, that's Wednesday.
Is that Dave Rubin as the big bug?
No, that's Jordan Peterson. He's finally crustacean.
Oh my god.
He's the Dragon of Chaos.
The Dragon of Chaos, the big beetle bug of chaos, I think is that scene. And that's great. Ben has he's giving me a vibe of Walter Sochik from Big Lebowski there too. I don't know. Maybe it's the arms, the ripped arms,
Yeah.
Calmer than you are, dude. So before we we got a little derailed, but we said that would happen, so that's okay. But this project you're working on, this bigger project, is about immigration, right? And maybe you could just talk a bit about why, of all the political subjects, I definitely think it's, especially now, but in the era of Trump, it's a very prescient topic, you know what I mean, to talk about. But why were you motivated to do a project about that?
I'm not, I don't know if I can actually articulate it completely because like it has been something that's been going on for a while. I mean, before Rachel Maddow went off the deep end, she actually used to report on the activists protesting Barack Obama in 2011 and 2012. And it was like watching her and Democracy Now! Cover like people blocking buses and stuff like that. And I just was like, man, like in the back of my head thinking like, yeah, there's something I got to do about this. And then I never really got involved, but like things kept happening and I just didn't quite know what to do. And then Trump finally came in and I'm just like, I gotta, I have only one real skill set to really push back against this. And I didn't quite know what this project was. And the story ICE checkpoint was like the first thing I actually did. I didn't have a full script. I was actually going page by page. And the key point was to come up with a good argument to end each page to make you want to turn the page to find out like what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and, I'm going to put it up right here. And so it's a scene where it's a family pulling up to a nice checkpoint. It looks like the boy is actually reading an article about it, about Trump's policy. And, they pull up to this checkpoint. Yeah, or checkpoint. Very good lettering. I like it. And he's arguing with his dad over whether they should do anything. This right here, man, I was just staring at this panel earlier today. I don't know. Reminds me of certain panels in The Walking Dead. If you take that.
Yeah, no, I was.
I wouldn't offend you.
This one I was playing around with like Photoshop and photographs in the background.
Oh, neat.
So
Okay.
I draw like the figures, and then run a photograph through the background and make it look like it could have been something that was drawn.
I see. I see.
But it's
Yeah.
all kind of integrated nicely, I think. I
Wow.
started doing that with the web comic around the Wisconsin protests.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
I don't think it looked this good there though, but that's
Hey,
you know how it is.
we're all developing. We're all getting better all the time. Um, yeah. So here, the kid's arguing with his dad, and the dad makes the common argument you hear in defense of really, a quite authoritarian agency that is been in existence, less time than I have for sure, but many of us. So he says, "Come on, ICE does good work. They fight against things like human trafficking." And the kid kind of goes back and forth with him, and the mom too. I can zoom in a bit, and then they're going back and forth before. Hi there. Can I ask y'all's citizenship? So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think people forget is that ICE had checkpoints in some cases miles and miles from the border.
Within
Where they're
100 miles of the border of any, including the ocean.
exactly, and they were just stopping people. Just hey, what's your citizenship? Going after people clearly speaking Spanish, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I mean, you live in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, we
Uh,
actually have one we hit on the way to my grandparents.
oh wow,
Or actually, well, my grandmother now because my grandfather's passed away. But
sorry to hear that. A nice
yeah,
checkpoint, though. A nice
yeah, there's an
checkpoint.
ICE checkpoint north of Boston on the 128, if I remember correctly.
Really, all the way
Yeah,
up there.
just before the Massachusetts New Hampshire border.
Wow, that is odd. But you're also from closer to the border originally, right?
Well, I was born in El Paso.
El Paso, border town, man. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I moved there when I was 6 months to go to New Hampshire and then to Turkey. But I was born in El Paso and then moved back to Texas many years later.
Okay, and so do you think that kind of formed some of your like attitude about or thoughts or feelings about immigration?
A little bit. I mean, like at the time, like when I was living, when we moved back to Texas, I have some, I hung out with some terrible people. I mean, as much as I like love my friend, he's not a great guy, but I'd go over there and we'd listen to Easy E because my parents wouldn't let me listen to Easy E and Anthrax.
Wow,
Yeah,
rough stuff, Andy. Rough stuff.
I know, but and we'd play Nintendo and set my hair on fire. And, we were good friends.
Yeah, setting stuff on fire. I remember the first friend I had who would put like M80s or whatever in dog crap, and I was just like, why
Yeah,
would
we
you
did
do
that.
that? Yeah, like that wasn't my idea of like what of all the things to blow up. That
Yeah,
wasn't.
and he had like he thought anti-immigration stuff was kind of funny. I kind of went along with it just because I was stupid and a kid.
Mhm.
Kind of feel bad about it now, obviously. But I was a dumb kid, so like, I'm gonna use that as my defense. Should have
Yeah,
known
well,
better.
yeah, well, I think a lot of us will, if we could time machine and just look back at ourselves in our younger years, we might be surprised at some of the ideas or things we said or things we did or ideas we had. But I think an inclusive left can forgive the past if you're trying to do good work
Yeah.
today. And there's more to this project, right? I mean, I
Oh,
have.
lots and lots of stuff.
So, is this going to be? Do you envision? How do you envision it? Like one
I
big?
envision it as an anthology, like a
Yeah, cool.
a good mix of like fictional stories, narrative pieces. I know Daniel Bester described it as Scott McCloud of the left.
Oh,
Um,
okay. That's
yeah,
great.
I think
That's
that's going to
great.
go on the book somewhere.
Well, yeah, get it, put it on the jacket.
Yeah, like right up with the
So
title.
yeah, there
Scott
you
McCloud
go.
of the left, Danny Bestner.
Nice. Which one would you? I have a couple more. Which one would you want to flip through really quick just so people can see the artwork. Fear or First They Came for the Communists?
Ooh, I'm going to say Fear because there's that one page on First They Came from the Communists I don't feel comfortable showing.
Oh yes, no, I know what you're talking about. We won't show that page, but I do want to show. I do want to show good old
Elliot Abrams.
Yes, Elliot Abrams as the Vulture. It's just too funny to me. I got to admit, I'm not that big of a comic book nerd. I have friends who are like encyclopedic or almost academic with their knowledge of comic books, and so when you said, "Oh, Elliot Abrams or looks like the Vulture," I had to go look up the Vulture. I'll admit, but then once I saw it, I was like, "Oh my god!" But let's take a real quick look at Fear. And it's interesting because what I like is also in these, you have some of them that are stories, very narrative, but then you have other ones where you are a character, or not a character, you're the narrator, clearly.
Yes.
And you use a really interesting kind of narrative style where you're telling the story, but then you interject yourself in it. Maybe to hit a point home or also make a joke. Here's one of these jokes I like. You have here, John Washington opens his book, The Dispossessed, with how fear has been the cornerstone of asylum since the ancient Greeks. The fear an asylum seeker experience might not be merited, but it's not wrong, he wrote. Homer sang of the world where asylum was needed for fear of pirates. And then this is you. Wait, is this the only picture of Homer we have? I just like it.
It's like I have a good sense of humor, and I think like even though I'm dealing with a very heavy subject, sometimes you just got to have some fun. I started this before Michael passed, and I would like to think that Michael would read this and just you could just see the back of his front teeth because his has his head thrown so far back laughing.
Yes, that famous Michael Brooks laugh. You go deeper into it. As Washington wrote in The Dispossessed, Silos is a Greek word for plundering. Silos is a space of limits from such plundering. Homer's Odyssey touched on this history of searching for, and this is probably one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. Enlightenment thinkers like Descartes, Voltaire, and Hobbes all fled their homes and found asylum. And you have these almost like photorealistic renditions of their portraits, and then you have Hobbes from Calvin and Hobbes. And then, okay, why don't we have a picture of Hobbes? Seriously? I love it, Andy, love it. And oddly enough, or interestingly enough, Bill Watterson was inspired by Lord Calvin and Hobbes to make these two characters that he dreamed up.
The irony is right around the time I was working on this, I was at the Calvin Coolidge Museum.
Huh?
So I really was doing Calvin and Hobbes. There may be a Calvin Coolidge story in the book, but I'm still kind of like working through that one because I have like lots of like first sources on it, and not like I'm not like taking like John Washington's hard work here and kind of transcribing it and drawing tigers.
Yeah, well, why not? And then you have this great rendition of the UN too. This is just fun.
Oh, I spent so much time on that one.
I bet you did, and I want to give you all the credit you deserve because that's fantastic. I just love stuff like this. I don't know why. Again, I'm a fan of line drawing. It scratches an itch that I have when I just certain drawing I like, some I don't like so much, but that's a great one. But let's see, you got Henry, you got Wallace in here, Henry Wallace, and
one of my favorite historical figures.
Yeah, fascinating guy. And then you this is where you get real. I mean, you talk about Bolivia's coup. You talk about
I so wish I could have stole a joke from Jake Flores saying because he described him as Evo as somebody whose hairline starts an inch above his eyebrows and is the thickest hair you've ever seen.
yeah, man. It's impressive. As a guy with some gnarly eyebrows myself and hair, you gotta respect a good hair game. But then, I mean, guys, Andy goes deep with this project. That's why I'm really hopeful you're gonna get it. published with somebody who can spread it around, because you drop some real knowledge in here. These fascist governments use fear of the other to hold on to power. You can see this from Pinochet's murder of musician and indigenous activist Victor Yara to the murder of Lincoln environmental activist Berta Caceres, to the exile of Bolivia's Eva Morales on the Anmara people. And then you could see, you break down Feinstein, things she was, what she was running on governor, her anti-immigration rhetoric, things Clinton did, the signing of the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigration Responsibility Act, the IIRIRA. And then, of course,
by the way, Biden voted against that. I just found out.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I know, right? I need to do a little more research into it because like I'm pretty sure he probably put some really bad stuff in it and then voted against it. So, but like, I don't know what to do with this information right now because like I said, I just came across that fairly recently. I finally been able to find the actual vote breakdown.
Interesting. That is like Joe Biden is such a weird fence sitting guy, like when you find out something about him, you're like, I'm not sure how I feel about that. If he made a good decision in the past or a good vote, you're kind of like, I'm not sure how I feel about this. But
well, that's because the thing is there's a great story from Teddy Kennedy. Whenever he first got into office, he saw this Republican get up there and he gave this speech, why this bill needs to be passed, and then voted against it. And Teddy Kennedy was like, well, what happened? So he went up to the guy and he's like, why did you vote against it? And he's like, oh, son, I was always going to vote against it, but I wanted to say I was for it. So in case my constituents say that they were disappointed, that they were hoping that they got passed, I could be like, look, I was fighting for that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So there's always pivoting going on.
I'm assuming him voting against the that particular bill was a situation. He probably put some really draconian laws in there that he voted for in like a committee or something.
Mm-hmm.
And but then because there was maybe there was like some outrage from his constituents, he voted against it. I don't know. I've not been able to find out much more.
He's special that way. And here's your drawing of him. Very good. You can almost hear the way he's talking, Oh, hey, how you doing, Andy? And the Pelosi's not bad. All of them. I got to say, I'm not going to, I don't want to give everything away, but I just like the drawing of these rats. They're very good. Yeah,
that was quite the night because
this actually happened to you. Were walking in a dark place and then a whole
swarm of rats. I went to a sci-fi convention in Boston and my friend dropped me off. Well, no, he didn't drop me off. He told me to go park at this parking lot. And so I parked at the parking lot and took the train into Boston so I can go to the convention. Spent all day at the convention. He picked me up afterwards. He drove into Boston after work and we met up, grabbed dinner, ran a couple errands that I needed to do. And by the time we got everything done, it was like 3 a.m. And wow. I'm walking back to the car, and next thing I know, I'm halfway across the parking lot in a full sprint, thinking to myself, "Why am I running?"
And that's how this section begins. I found myself in Boston in a full sprint, and I had a moment of not remembering why I was sprinting. That's interesting. It kind of shows how a lot of immigration, the conversation around immigration policy, is based off of fear. And hatred, of course, but like fear of the unknown, right?
Well, fear also of like what's going to happen to them if they stay. That is why a lot of migrants leave. Right now, if I remember correctly, 3% of the world's population are migrants.
Oh my goodness. Jeez.
Yeah. I could actually pull that up. No, I'm not going to.
But it's only an issue that, and this is the fascinating thing, because Biden did a press conference earlier today, and he was asked quite a bit about the situation at the border, and he kind of did a bit of a come on man about how we're still working on undoing all the bad stuff Trump did, and I'm gonna have a new setup really soon, and I'll let the journalists in to see it when I'm done. And they've appointed Kamala Harris as the point person on this, right? And which we can.
Yeah, Kamala, who deported 100 children of her in California as AG.
Okay, well, there you go. And this has been like, and Obama deported just an insane number
Trump
of
couldn't
people.
even keep up with the numbers.
It's remarkable. It truly is remarkable that Obama came in and he was handed this authoritarian apparatus that Bush had created through the Patriot Act, or through the creation of DHS, and then of course Obama just took the keys and went okay and started flipping the knobs and the dials up to 10 or 11. And yeah, like you said, Bush couldn't even keep up. So really, this kind of, in a way, white supremacist or nationalist, if you will, immigration policy, this hardline right wing policy, has been bipartisan for a long time.
A long time. You can trace it back from really kind of starting in the 80s, once Reagan kind of realigned stuff after he kind of did his thing. But because Clinton basically picked up where Reagan left off and kept running with it.
Yeah, triangulation. Be talk like a Democrat but walk like a Republican, basically, right?
Yeah, and he helped build up the whole infrastructure and handed it over to Bush, who after 9/11 turned it into even a bigger machine. I mean that's the thing, is like nobody is taking the time to deconstruct anything. And one of the things, like I've been like, just want to just take libs by the collar and scream in their face sometimes. It's really not hard. All Biden needed to do is to do something that took him 6 weeks to actually do, which is there's a Trump era law which was blocking, which was basically telling ICE that they can investigate anybody as potential immigrants. So if anybody comes in contact with the system, they have the right to go in and kind of investigate. Well, a lot of these children who are showing up at the border who might not have a family member with them, they happen to have family in the States. They might have an uncle, an aunt, a cousin, somebody who's here legally or illegally, doesn't matter, in the States. And that's where they should be right now. And it took them 6 freaking weeks to repeal this one law, which was part of the reason why there's such a big backup right now.
Yeah, and he could have done it day one.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's not that like I expect everything to be perfect by right now. It's that he's missing a lot of opportunities to act, and that's what makes me very upset. It's like, well, yeah, no, I'm not expecting like everything to be fixed or anything like that. Biden's not even going to be the guy to fix it. But Biden's going to make some improvements. But the problem is that the improvements are coming very slow right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is I think today's press conference shows that he's kind of feeling the fire lit under him a little bit. He's pivoting. He's trying to, but the other thing that he can always fall back on is, and he did during the press conferences. Well, look at what Trump was doing. It was so bad. Trump was just so bad. I'm not going to do that to those little children. I'm not going to be taking little babies away from their mothers. Come on, man. Like, it's just this.
And every time he says something like that, I just want to be like, motherfucker, you were doing child separation with Obama, except your child separation looked like, little Juan would go to school one day and come home and his dad would be back in Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. And there was child detention. It's just, we should be clear that one of the things that Biden did undo relatively quickly was the executive order, this was the DOJ tweak to the law that Jeff Sessions made that made it so that any border crossing, even if it's your first offense, went from a civil violation to a criminal violation. Yeah. And that's how Trump was justifying child separation from every family that crossed the border, because they were denying asylum, all of these things. Oh, the other thing recently that Biden was that they've still held on was the fact that using this obscure law and using COVID as an argument for we're not letting anybody in.
I can see that to a point, because they don't necessarily have the place to put everybody because of the backlog, and I understand that. But also, oh my God, I just forgot there was a Supreme Court decision in the 80s about how long we're supposed to actually be able to hold children in custody. And Biden's about to be breaking that if he hasn't already. Because I think it's 90 days is the limit, and I'm doing this completely off the top of my head, so I could be totally wrong about the details of the decision, and it's somebody's name, and I'm also forgetting that right now. So go me.
Of course, there's so many things. I mean, it's worth noting that our immigration policy and the way that we've been treating, especially children, but immigrants at the border, refugees, asylum seekers, is against international law. Like, it's not cool with the UN. It's not cool with all kinds of international groups that are like, hey, man, or to Joe Biden, come on, man, like this isn't. I mean, but this is a weird thing, and it's very weird because the media, and when I say the media, I kind of get a feedback loop in my head because as a journalist, like,
You are the media.
yeah, I used to joke with conservatives in my town. I go, hey, buddy, I am the liberal media. But anyway, the Beltway established corporate media that was allowed to ask him questions during this thing today. They can't help, their idea of framing things or their idea of holding Joe Biden accountable and being both sides type of deal is by basically pivoting to Republican white nationalist rhetoric, where they're like, oh, President Biden, aren't you, in a sense, by saying you're not going to cruelly torture these kids or whatever, that you're welcoming them to come here? Isn't that, since you're not doing exactly what Trump did, aren't you basically laying out a red carpet for all of these, and there's a lot of veiled language there. And they, also ask him, when are they going to stay here? Are they going to stay?
Well, I mean, go back to Dianne Feinstein's 1990 campaign, which I think is like one of those pivotal points in American politics, because where she tried to maneuver a anti-immigrant Republican and lost to him. But a lot of and I know Daniel Denver did a great job in All American Nativism, kind of outlining this in his book, which I highly recommend.
All American. Do you quote that in the comic?
Yes, that one is it's in Fear.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a little bit later. I think it's the next page.
Okay. Let's take a really quick look at First They Came for the Communists. We're not going to show that one panel you're talking about because, folks, he gets, I mean, quite literally, you depict what was done in South America. We're talking about, in Chile, it's Pinochet. There's Allende in, is it Guatemala? I'm trying to remember.
I did not pull my punches in that image, and I had nightmares afterwards.
Yeah. I mean,
I almost quit the project after I drew that page.
Oh my gosh! So I'm doing I'm in Spanish class right now, advanced Spanish, and so every section of this class focuses on a different country. We've done Ecuador and Bolivia and Guatemala, and so every time they tell you all like the hunky dory, dimple in the cheek, like, hey, and the biggest city in Argentina is Buenos Aires, and I think then they show you people of like consequence, and every single one has like a really important, like, liberation, environmental activist, and one of these people, and they just kind of, hint at, oh, in this country, all these children were taken away from, mothers. In this country, there was the military times, or you know what I mean. They have all these hints at how bad
what they would do is they take the children from the communists and give it to the loyal fascists and raise them as their own. And there's a bunch of groups that have been trying to reunite families for years.
Exactly. I think there's one in Argentina that I learned about in this book. But then, of course, I go down the rabbit hole, and I'm on YouTube, and I'm watching, a man from, like Bolivia or Guatemala watching, archaeologists, forensic anthropologists dig up the grave where his family is, where his wife was shot and his daughter or whatever, and he's just sitting there crying, and that's them, this is where we buried them, wrapped them in a bag, after the guerrillas came, the right-wing militias, and killed them. Really, just really dark stuff. But really quick, let's just look at this comic. And yes, no, we're not going to look at that one. But this is really interesting. So what is this a depiction of here? This is, of course, the famous poem.
That's the wall at the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C.
First, they came. Go ahead.
Which important note is Elliot Abrams, who we mentioned before, is at least was on their board.
Yes, and this is the weird thing, and you pointed out here. Everybody has heard this famous poem. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out. And it goes on, and then they came for me, trade unionists, the Jews, and I did nothing. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. And then your comic, said the poem, it's supposed to read, first they came for the communists. By changing it to socialists, it changes the meaning. Like, explain that for folks who don't know what you're on about there. Why is that an important distinction?
Well, I mean, first of all, communists for the most part in America is like, and throughout history are kind of like an easy bad guy. So kind of erasing that and just going straight for the socialist kind of also feeds into that right-wing myth about how, the communists, the Nazis actually were socialists. Look at their name. National Socialists. And so
checkmate libs.
And so like because communism and socialism are so intertwined, to actually see that repeated in that first line, the first and second lines, first the communists, then the socialists. And he read it many times that way, and it was published many times that way too. There's various versions of the poem. If you go through the Wikipedia page actually does a really good job charting the different and here he said this and there he said that, and it's actually kind of interesting. Sometimes he did actually start with a socialist, but I kind of since he initially since a lot of times it is first they come for the communists and the erasure of that, and how they then Elliot Abrams essentially demonized the socialists, the communists I should say, of Central America and South America as his time working for Reagan. I thought it was really important to point out, the fact that this has changed in this setting with Elliot Abrams sitting on the board. It kind of changes the meaning of the poem and allows him to not feel like he is one of those people who first came for the communists, because that's literally what he first did.
Yeah, well, that's part of the policy. He was a goon in the creation of. But here's your depiction of Elliot Abrams, right next to, of course, Vulture from Spider-Man, which is a hilarious likeness, really.
And I was kind of working off of a Ditko drawing, so I was kind of get the classic Vulture too.
Yes, Ditko. Yes. I'm learning a lot of comic book history. Steve
Ditko's fascinating because he was actually an objectivist.
Really?
And if you go back and read the old Spider-Man, he was telling Stanley no, Peter Parker's not a liberal, he's an objectivist. And Peter Parker's I hate these protesting college students.
For real?
They're all PC and.
Oh my God! Well, and that's
I'm not really making. I might be paraphrasing, but I'm not really making things up here.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
but that is just too good, though. That depiction of him there.
My favorite Ditko story, real quickly. He used to do Doctor Strange as well, and hippies would show up at comic book conventions and be like, "Hey man, I totally get your Doctor Strange, man. Let's go out back and do some acid." And because he hates hippies.
Damn hippies! Yeah,
he's yelling at them. Get away from me!
My wife and I actually just rewatched Doctor Strange. What was your opinion of these kind of newer? I mean, you could give me a whole take on Marvel, but I did like Doctor Strange.
The big problem I had with Doctor Strange was that And I love Bender Bunch Humperdinck, or however you say his name.
Benedict,
You know, even though
Benedict
he
Cumberbatch. Oh,
even though he did not say the
Bandersnatch
word,
Humperdinck. Oh my god.
even though Cumber Snatch Benderdink has never been able to say the word penguins successfully, and he starred in like 2 penguin movies.
Really? He can't say penguins?
Yeah, go find a supercut of him, edit it in whenever we're done. It's
When
just
did,
penguins, penguins, penguins,
oh,
penguins.
oh. He's British,
But
man.
no,
He can't help being British. No, I'm just kidding.
anyways, I just hate the fact that they took his voice and gave him the most generic accent. Even though the rumor, and this is one of those things that's like a comic rumor, and there's no corroborating evidence, because Ditko went off into self exile and didn't really talk too much about these things. Nobody really knows this for a fact, but Doctor Strange was based on Vincent Price
oh,
initially.
wow.
So like and the thing is, it's like physically, that Binger Snatch,
Schmumper dump. Oh man,
he
he's
kind of
not
has
that
that
bad.
kind of vibe as Vincent Price too. Like he could have been a really interesting Doctor Strange, and because he did such a generic American accent that was really bad at times,
Yeah.
it really kind of ruined what could have been a very, because like everything else was great. It's just that accent kind of killed it for me.
There's some British actors that are better at it than others.
Yeah.
Also, Martin Freeman, his character in Marvel as like the CIA guy, he's in
Yes.
Black Panther. His American accent is not great either. It's very like I'm an American, like that.
But it works for the character if you know the character. I hope one
Okay,
day we will
all
actually
right,
finally get to
nerd.
see Martin Freeman's character with the devil's pants. Devil's pants. That's all I'm saying. Look it up. Devil's pants.
Okay, well, that sounds like a thing that definitely exists in Marvel. But yeah, no, I'll admit I'm a big fan of the Schmenerdink Schmumber bunch and Benedict Cumberbatch. I like them, and him and Martin Freeman are funny because they're Sherlock and Watson in Sherlock, if you've ever seen that, and then they were opposite each other in The Hobbit. Desolation of Smaug, where Benedict Schmumber match was Smaug the Dragon. This is where my nerd cred comes in, Andy. Is in Lord of the Rings, and then I don't know if those two characters have met up in the movies yet, but anyway, they're in the same extended
Yes,
universe.
I think they might have been in the same scene, but they didn't actually talk or anything.
Okay. Are there any like Marvel movies that I just asked you as a comic book person, are there any of them that stand out to you that you like? Any ones you hate? Like, do you have a general?
Um, Most of them I'm kind of indifferent to, and like I like I enjoy watching them at the time, and then when they're
Uh-huh.
done, I don't really like
Totally
except for
forget them.
maybe Winter Soldier might be like the one exception.
That one's
Winter Soldier was
surprisingly
really
good.
good.
It was really good. They get deep in there with the whole,
Yeah,
like was it like their State
kind
Department
of spy
shield or
thriller.
yeah, they have the Nazis. They bring in Operation Paperclip and everything. It's like okay, all right, Winter
Yeah.
Soldier. I
The
never
only
liked
disappointment is
Captain
that they
America.
didn't have that epic fight between Crossbones and Cap on the mountain. But you don't need to have every single thing. I always feel like Crossbones got a bit of a short shift in the whole Marvel movies, because like I like the actor. He's a lot of fun,
Crossbones.
and
Which character is that? Or which?
he gets killed at the beginning of Age of Ultron. He fights. He's in Winter Soldier, and he's in Civil War.
Which one was he?
Well, in Winter Soldier, he's just like this generic guy, but he was using Crossbones' real name. And then no, wait, it was Civil War where he died. Let me take that back. Yeah, and then he shows up and he's got like the skull painted on his helmet, and then Scarlet Witch kills him.
Oh yeah, that guy. Okay. See, I just didn't even know he had a cool name like that. I might
Yeah,
have remembered.
no. Crossbones is this great. He's basically Red Skull's like main henchman.
Oh, see, they gave him.
Yeah.
They shorted him.
And like I like the actor and I like the character, and just like it would have been nice if he actually did something in one movie beyond just having a fight scene like Bartok the Leaper,
Oh, okay. I
which
don't
Bartok the
know.
Leaper was in those movies as well. He's that guy who did all the flips when he was fighting Captain America.
Oh, yeah,
And then
yeah,
he was
yeah,
in
yeah.
the Falcon and the Winter Soldier first episode.
Okay, got it. So I haven't watched that yet. We got
Okay.
another question here in the chat. What is Andrew's take on other comic book aficionados like Kevin Smith, for example? He's also the famous filmmaker who made Clerks. Oh, we
Partied with
know. Say
I
what?
partied with him.
No way, for real?
Yeah, I was
Oh,
Kevin Eastman put together. Kevin Eastman was the co-creator of the Ninja Turtles, and he ran the World of Pictures Museum, and he had a
man.
party to celebrate the Marvel Knights launch, where everybody except who was the one person who didn't show up? I think it was it Bernie Wrightson? Or was he? No, yeah, I think it was Bernie Wrightson who didn't show up.
Okay.
I was missing my Bernie. But everybody who was involved with the initial 4 Marvel Knights books was there. Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Connor, Joe Quesada, Kevin Smith, M.D. Bright, I think is his name. I think that was the writer of Black Panther, Mark Texiera. But basically, yeah, Jay Lee and Paul Jenkins.
Wow.
They all showed up at this big party for members, and so there was they did a signing all day, and after the signing, Jimmy and Amanda were really hungry because they didn't actually serve proper food at these parties. And it's like, is there a good place for pizza? And I'm like, me and Cross are going to hit a place. Just come with us. So they came and like, you don't mind if we don't sit with you? And I'm like, no, you've been with fans all day, whatever. Just eat, relax. We got you. So we took them to this little pizza place, and just partway through the meal, you just hear Jimmy Palmiotti just go, that Andy's really a son of a bitch.
Talking about you?
Yes.
Oh, what'd you do?
He just like,
Wow.
we just told the 4 of us to crack up, and
they were trolling you. They were trolling.
Yeah, they would just sit there and be like, yeah, well, Jimmy Palmiotti's just a tracer.
Oh my! Oh, that's a burn.
Yeah,
I can imagine that's a sick burn. But hey,
Amanda
you know
Connor
what?
Snarfed.
I mean, what did you partied with Kevin Smith? What did it entail? I mean, did you guys
Not a
toke
whole
up or
lot. I
anything?
mean, he was
No.
sick because he was working on Dogma at the time. He was editing.
Holy dude, that's vintage Kevin Smith you're hanging out with. Wow.
Yes, yeah. This was when he was writing Daredevil.
Dude, that is so cool.
I have to say. 98?
Speaking of speaking of Kevin Smith, that's a good segue if somebody asked about him. A lot of people, I think a lot of Americans understand politics through pop culture. When I had Jason Miles on from This Is Revolution, we just talked about politics and pop culture, and that's part of what I like about when you go on to Ben Burgis' show when he does the movie breakdowns, talking about like movies like RoboCop, but a big one, of course, one that everybody knows about, ubiquitous, is Star Wars, right? And you sent me a link to a story.
I sent you a couple, I thought.
Maybe, but I got this main one, and this goes back. Like, I think I was I in junior high, or maybe I was a freshman in high school. I'm dating myself, but May 5th, 2002. This is during the height of the prequels. The Case for the Empire in the Washington Examiner. Tell me, why do you think, like, it isn't just that George Lucas made Darth Vader too cool looking, right? I mean, and the Empire, the aesthetics of the Empire is super cool. Like, why do you think conservatives have such a boner for the bad guys?
Well, I think the big thing is that and the other article I sent you is actually a really great example of this. Is that George Lucas did a great job kind of capturing some of the politics of any given era. Where Star Wars was kind of about Vietnam and was a secret Vietnam movie, if you really think about it. The Rebel Empire, the rebels were the the Rebel Alliance were the Viet Cong, and the
Wow.
Empire is the United States. But it was able to present it in a way to be much more anti-war than say Apocalypse Now could have been.
Yeah. Very interesting.
And
So,
so,
go ahead.
because of the fact that the Empire, which yes, there's a lot of visual borrowing from the Nazi Party. They named the stormtroopers for Christ's sake.
Yeah, of course.
That they still had an incredible like they relate to this, and it's really kind of interesting that you see it in that other article that I sent you, the one was like 12 reasons why the Jedi are terrible, kind of go along with this, because this one kind of came out during the prequels, because I think this one this one was written right before the Last Jedi came out, so it was kind of looking at the prequels. And if you think about the prequels, those that one's about how liberal politics tends to fail in the face of like authoritarianism, and it was kind of about George Bush.
Ooh,
And I
very.
mean, if you remember, I think it was the Emperor who said, "You're either with us or against us."
Yeah. Yep.
Just like Dick Cheney.
Wow. So in this is from 2002, The Case for Empire. The guy's talking. This is just after Attack of the Clones came out, and he does a lot of just breaking down the plot. But it's funny thing. Just here. Let's not bury the lead. It's right here in the lead. The deep lesson of Star Wars is that the Empire is good, guys. This is the Washington Examiner, the conservative source Americans deserve, right? The deep lesson of Star Wars is that the Empire is good. It's a difficult leap to make, embracing Darth Vader and the Emperor over the plucky and attractive Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia. Okay, he's got to make it about looks, but a careful examination of the facts, sorted apart from Lucas's off-the-shelf moral cues, makes a quite convincing case. Isn't it funny how, like, it's off the shelf moral cues. But so he breaks down all these, all this, plot stuff. But then he gets into the weeds with the Empire. Let's see here. Lucas wants the Empire to stand for evil, so he tells us that the Empire and Darth Vader have gone over to the dark side and dresses them in black. But look closer. When Palpatine is still a senator, he says, the Republic is not what it once was. The Senate is full of greedy, squabbling delegates. There is no interest in the common good. At one point, he laments, the bureaucrats are in charge now. Oh, we need small government, right?
Yeah.
But let's see here.
Like I said, the Senate and the Jedis in these movies really are like the failure of liberalism.
Well, yeah, I mean, and what does he say here? Palpatine believes the political order must be manipulated to produce peace and stability. He mutters, there is no civility, there is only politics. We see at heart he is an esoteric Straussian. Make no mistake, Palpatine is a dictator, but a relatively benign one. Oh, really? Oh, look, like Pinochet. Make no mistake, as Emperor Palpatine is a dictator, but a relatively benign one. Like Pinochet, the guy who, slaughtered innocent people, threw, his competition out of helicopters.
But they were free helicopter rides.
Yeah.
Free.
Yeah. You're referencing the last interview I did with an anti-fascist in L.A., Eric, who had his scalp sliced open with a skateboard wielded by a far right D-bag who had a shirt that literally said "free helicopter rights." He calls the Jedi divine right. The Empire is a meritocracy. Oh my God. The Empire runs academies throughout the galaxy. Han Solo begins his career at an Imperial Academy. He calls them academies, like they're not indoctrination centers. Change your world. Like, what is it? Why are they so I mean, I just can't believe it. They're literally rooting for the bad guys.
I mean, I think it's because, like I said, George Lucas got a lot of stuff right, which is why I know a lot of people in my generation, I remember my old Australian pen pal from grade school, who I'm still in touch with, was just cool. Oh, space is about me and my rage against Jar Jar. And it's like, Forget Jar Jar. Like
Get over it.
yeah, it's been 20 years. Get over it.
Yeah.
And like Jar Jar was not the reason why the prequels were bad. There were plenty of other reasons. Sand, for example, is a good reason. Sand is my top reason why the prequels
I
were
think
bad.
the casual racism is part of why. I mean, outside of Jar Jar Binks, who is very racist, you have
Yeah,
the trade unionists are clearly like, depicted as
Chinese.
or Asian or Korean.
Yeah,
Watto is the Arab, merchant, who owns Anakin. It's just there's a lot of weird like stuff going on there.
yeah, and I think that's just an artifact of like George Lucas growing up too. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
George Lucas might have been kind of brilliant at being able to like I said, there's a lot of good things that are in those 6 movies. And the prequels, as many bad things as they are to make them unwatchable, at the same time, there's a lot of like core, like really good ideas that never quite get explored the way they should.
Yeah, and John in the comments here is saying, I blame. Wait, or he says, trying to bring it up. Jake Lloyd was the reason the prequels were bad too. I put more blame on Hayden Christensen. I feel like you can't put that much blame on a child actor. He's a child
I think one of the problems with Hayden Christensen too is like he like it takes a while before he can really know how to like be a leading man, not necessarily a leading man, but carry a film. And like Mark Hamill was able to carry Star Wars somehow.
Yeah, well, he just had a raw talent.
Yeah. And like I watched a terrible movie called The Tax Collector last night about a bunch of Mexican gangs in LA.
Okay.
It was really weird because I kept going like, man, the heavy, the guy who's the enforcer for the main character looks really familiar. And I looked it up and it was Shia LaBeouf.
Oh.
Like almost ruined the movie for me right there. Because George Lopez was awesome in it. He was like his badass gangster.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's not a great film. I'm not going to tell you, but one of the problems of the film is like it has this young, inexperienced actor who hasn't done a whole lot, who has to carry the movie. And when he's with Shia LaBeouf, who's a much better actor. I mean, Shia LaBeouf is not a bad actor.
Yeah,
he's done some bad films, but like
bad things.
Yes, yeah, and I mean, but like he was he can, he's a good actor. And then so like you have somebody who's very inexperienced playing opposite of him, or George Lopez, who, like I said, was just fantastic in this. Small part, just really great performance. And there's a lot of actors who haven't really done a lot. Like there's this one rapper who, like, this is the second credit to his name, playing the main villain, and he was fantastic. The material is not really well written. Like there's a problem with the script. There's lots of problems with this movie. But like I said, the main actor, good actor, but he couldn't quite carry the film. And I think that's the same thing with Hayden Christensen. He never had a chance to figure, because like I see the raw talent in there, but like he just never quite had the material, in my opinion, to really kind of break out and do anything. And because of the fans, I mean, the fans drove Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar, to suicide.
That guy committed suicide?
He tried.
Oh my God.
He's okay now.
I
Follow
didn't
him
know
on
that.
Twitter. Follow him on Twitter. He's a beautiful person.
Wow, what a guy. Jeez. Damn, that's insane.
Yeah, send him a nice message. Tell I don't know. He doesn't know who I am.
We've strayed a bit from the politics of Star Wars, but the toxicity of fandom is something that trips me out.
Yeah, and like Hayden Christensen now is like producing rap albums with like a Chaos, one of my favorite rappers, went to Hayden Christensen's house and recorded this great double disc album, and at Hayden Christensen's house.
Why not? Why the hell not? If you do something with that money, if it ain't going to be acting. But the politics of Star Wars is very interesting. And you mentioned hanging out with Kevin Smith in the late 90s. So I do have a video file that I prepared. So this platform I'm using now, I actually have to have a file ready to go. But let's just watch this whole thing through, and then we'll comment on it, because of course there's a little bit of talk about politics in Star Wars in Clerks. So let's check out that clip really quick.
Endings. All Jedi had was a bunch of Muppets.
There's something else going on in Jedi. I never noticed it till today.
All
They
right.
built another Death Star, right?
Whoops.
Yeah.
Now, the first one was completed and fully operational before the rebels destroyed it.
Luke blew it up. Give credit where credit's due.
And the second one was still being built when they blew it up.
Compliments of Lando Calrissian.
Something just never sat right with me that second time around. I could never put my finger on it, but something just wasn't right.
And you figured it out.
The first Death Star was manned by the Imperial Army. The only people on board were stormtroopers, dignitaries, Imperials.
Basically.
So when they blew it up, no problem. Evil's punished.
And the second time around?
The second time around, it wasn't even done being built yet. It was still under construction.
So?
So a construction job of that magnitude would require a hell of a lot more manpower than the Imperial Army had to offer. I'll bet they brought independent contractors in on that thing. Plumbers, aluminum siders, roofers.
Not just Imperials. Is that what you're getting at?
Exactly. In order to get it built quickly and quietly, they'd hire anybody that can do the job. Think the average stormtrooper knows how to install a toilet main? All they know is killing in white uniforms.
All right, so they bring in independent contractors. Why are you so upset at its destruction?
All those innocent contractors brought in to do the job were killed. Casualties of a war they had nothing to do with. All right, look, you're a roofer. Some juicy government contract comes your way. You got a wife and kids, the two-story in suburbia. This is a government contract, which means all sorts of benefits. Along come these left-wing militants and blast everything within a 3-mile radius with their lasers. You didn't ask for that. You have no personal politics. You're just trying to scrape out a living.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but what are you talking about?
The
So,
ending of Return of the Jedi.
And then that guy comes in, you know, and he has a funny point to make, like, a contractor always knows who he's working with, kid. But you know.
Sounds like a Sopranos story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I wanted to mention earlier, you know, you mentioned drawing Michael Brooks at, like possibly drawing him in a, in The Godfather. I said you could have put him in the IDW out in front of the diner in The Sopranos. That might have been fun too. But
Bing.
Yeah, the Bada Bing. Your Ben Burgis at the Bada Bing was fantastic. But so what you like? What?
No, that was Letterhack.
Oh, Letterhack. Okay. But what the clip? We got to talk about the clip really quick. I remember seeing that in high school when I was really into filmmaking. I took filmmaking classes several years, and just the idea of describing Luke Skywalker and them as left-wing militants is pretty funny.
I remember for my freshman year of college, they played that during our orientation weekend. So we all went up there. I ended up meeting some of my best friends in my life that weekend. And we ended up not going to go see it. We ended up watching Cartoon Network all night long.
Nice.
It was like back whenever they showed like all the old Hanna-Barbera stuff.
Oh, wow.
So it was years later before I finally saw Clerks. So I missed that. I missed Mallrats like when they first came out. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, realized like later on going like, what did I do? What?
Yeah. Well, it's good stuff. It's good. That's just a funny moment. But this idea that, I think there were a lot of fans who sat around and thought a lot about it, but the politics is funny. Why? But again, like this impulse for people to want to side with the Empire. Why do you think that is?
I think it's a way to kind of explain away their worst instincts.
Their own internal authoritarianism, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you think about it, just republicanism in general, and I'm talking like, the plain vanilla
small
Romneys.
Okay.
like they're all ghouls, but the ones that liberals give a pass to, like John McCain.
They're never Trumpers, right?
Yeah, just because they're against like one absolute form of ghoulishness does not mean that they're not ghouls themselves. And I think a lot of times it's just a way to kind of they actually see the connections that the filmmaker sees. And because like I said, Lucas did do a really good job kind of getting the subtext of the failure of liberalism in the prequels and the the kind of like the uprising and making the characters all white, of course, also throws back to the American Revolution, which is another thing that probably initially attracted the right wingers to go see Star Wars in the first place. Because there's also a bunch of articles saying no, the Rebel Alliance, that's us conservatives.
Yeah. Oh well, like look here in the story here. Um, and while it's a small point, the Empire's manners and decorum speak well of it. Oh my God. When Darth Vader is forced to employ bounty hunters to track down Han Solo, he refuses to address them by name. Oh my gosh. Even Boba Fett, the greatest of all trackers, is referred to icily as bounty hunter. Oh, so he will employ, this. I mean, this is like, they are talking about South America and Pinochet and Allende and all of them. We won't name the right wing guerrilla squads, and we may fund them with, money running guns to Iran, right? The Iran Contra situation. But, it speaks well of it. They have manners. It's morning in America, right? God damn.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I do these weird things where I just start going down these rabbit holes, like this one or the Rocky IV articles.
Rocky IV. Oh gosh.
Oh man, yeah. Just maybe we should do this again, and we'll just do a reading series where we just read some Rocky IV articles.
Looking at right wingers not get the point of the movie,
Well, actually, Rocky IV was kind of jingoistic, and it's just like,
yeah,
it really was.
Was Rock.
That was the one where he fights Russia.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of what's the more recent one?
The Creed movies?
No, the Rocky movies, like the ones where
Rocky
he's
Balboa.
I don't know. There's one where they obviously made it as gory as possible.
I think you're thinking of Rocky Balboa.
Probably, yeah.
Or
it's just
you're thinking of Rambo. Just Rambo.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not talking about Rocky. I'm talking about Rambo.
Okay.
I mixed them up in my head, man. I just mixed Rocky became Rambo.
Yeah, Rambo's fascinating because like have you ever seen any of the Rambo movies?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because like First Blood is really it's nothing like any of the other films.
No, it's weird. It's almost kind of anti-war, anti-American, like authoritarianism.
Yeah.
Kind of not really. It's like more about the way they treated us,
And then of course, it's almost anti-police, but not really.
Yeah, he's a cop killer in that movie.
Not on purpose.
Of course not. They made him do it. But there's that line at the end was he say, "I just want this country to love me as much as I love it," right?
Yeah, and then it turns into hippie punching at the end. It's such a it's a fascinating movie. And then of course the sequel is just like it's so jingoistic. Because it's basically like, let's go back to Vietnam and win it.
Jesus,
and it's hilarious because it's so dumb. And then the third one's actually kind of my secret favorite.
Yeah. Why is that?
I have seen that one far too many times.
Why is that?
That's the one where he goes off to Afghanistan and teams up with the Mujahideen to fight Russians.
Oh my god!
At the end, he takes on a Russian attack helicopter with a bow and arrow.
That's right. He has those exploding
there's like
tips
a tank.
to his bows, right?
God.
He's got arrows with exploding tips on them, right?
And the other thing that's so great, just as far as filmmaking goes, you got Sylvester Stallone, who kind of came up out of that 70s experimental cinema that changed the way movies were acted. But then the guy playing the colonel that's in the first three, he's like one of those older style actors and kind of has that same kind of performance that the older style actors give. So it's this weird combination of whenever they team up at the end to fight the Russians, and it's like old school meets new 70s school. But
to bring it back to Star Wars for a second, I think that was part of Lucas's genius was getting Alec Guinness in there as Obi-Wan, because he brought that classic, Lawrence of Arabia, classic Hollywood.
Well, he wanted initially Toshiro Mifune to play Obi-Wan.
Wow. Oh, so real samurai movie stuff.
So he went to Toshiro Mifune. Toshiro Mifune is like, no. He's like, how about Darth Vader? It's like, no.
Nah, dude.
and
even Alec Guinness wasn't that into it. He was kind of like, what is this weird shit?
Just imagine the prequels with like a really cool Asian dude as Obi-Wan.
Or Qui-Gon Jinn. Oh, no, I see what you're saying. If they had got that, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, if Toshiro Mifune played him.
That's the thing. You were talking about carrying the movies earlier, Hayden Christensen. To me, the only thing carrying, if at all, the prequels was my man Ewan McGregor. I got a soft spot for Ewan.
Absolutely, yeah. No, every single scene he's in, he just elevates it. It also helps that a lot of the smaller parts were just phenomenal actors. I mean, if you really think about it, you got the Chancellor is freaking Zod from Superman 2.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm blanking on his name.
So great.
And then he's you got Samuel Jackson and
of course, yeah, right, yeah.
Just so many great actors in very small parts.
Yeah, and to bring it back a little bit to because we were talking politics and movies and stuff like that, and we were talking Marvel earlier, and there's like some weird politics in Marvel a little bit too, like.
Yeah,
Iron Man. They try to like talk about the military-industrial complex, but then it's very like neoliberal. Like I'm just a guy I've privatized world peace, is I think a line that Tony Stark says.
Well, I think that's from 2, right?
It might have been
seen that much of.
It might have been Iron Man.
Really left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird.
It was almost like the Fountainhead.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and
it had like this Fountainhead story arc with Gary Sandling as the senator.
What was he up to? What was he up to?
He was trying to get the Iron Man armor for the government.
Oh, yeah.
They basically had like this Ayn Rand trial where like Tony Stark's up there like, no, this must be private and blah blah blah, and you can't stop the.
Only the brilliant industrialist can wield such power.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was Stan Lee wanted to create a character that was unlikable, like a Howard Hughes kind of monster, and make him into a likable character.
Hey, I think it might have contributed a little poorly to the discourse in that like people just look at an Elon Musk and go, he's a spaceman, wants to go to space. He's like, he's Tony Stark over here. You know what I mean? There's just this attitude, that people look at Elon Musk like he's legit Tony Stark when he's this kind of dweeby weirdo.
Yeah, he steals all of the stuff where Tony Stark actually makes things.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Zuckerberg. I mean, all these guys are.
Yeah, I mean, like Bruce Wayne doesn't make anything. Bruce Wayne's not this genius. He can fight, and that's basically his skill set.
And he's got a lot of gadgets. Yeah.
But like he hires somebody else. He's just like Elon Musk hiring somebody else to make his own gadgets.
Interesting. Yeah, and, a Muskian or what's the Apple guy?
Tim Apple.
The guy, he's the guy everybody worshipped, and he came out. Freaking help us out, chat.
Ashton Kutcher played him.
Yeah, that's so weird. That's so weird. When's there gonna be a real Bill Gates movie so we can all,
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. How could we blank on that name? Thank you, John. Oh yeah.
I remember Ashton Kutcher.
No, it's like the Kevin Bacon degrees of separation. Yes, thank you, Jay. We got it. Jesus, Steve Jobs. But really quick, like what I really like about the work. Oh, and everybody kept asking me, and I forgot to ask you. There isn't quite a name. We showed a bunch of your comic stuff earlier, but there isn't quite a name for this project yet, or is there? And basically, I tried to make it clear in the beginning. You have a bunch of stuff you want to combine and maybe add more to into one book that's kind of like an anthology, right?
Yeah, the whole idea is one of my favorite books is Understanding Comics. If anybody in the chat has not seen it or watching this later, whatever, Understanding Comics is one of the great graphic novels to go out there and find. And it's Scott McCloud makes himself a character and kind of goes through and explains a very Marshall McLuhan kind of way, how comic books work philosophically, like what the panel borders do, what the panel to panel transitions do, what, like how time works in a panel, and how it's different than real life. It kind of goes through, it's not just how to make comics, but it's like how to understand comics and in a much more academic way, and nobody before has really quite gone as academic. I know Will Eisner wrote the first academic textbooks at the college level, and McLeod, borrowed a lot from those. But and I think Comics and Sequential Art is the Will Eisner's book. But
this is that's one of the things you rely on in at least this part of the project, where obviously you have this goofy, you've turned Thomas Hobbes into Hobbes from Calvin and Hobbes, but then you're throughout the panels kind of interjecting, kind of like understanding comics.
Yeah. Like he might not have. He did the things in a little bit different of a way, where he would like abstract something or abstract his own face and reveal that it's a mask, and it's a really interesting play on things, because part of it was talking about like how like if you're looking at my face, you see my face, you don't see your face, because I'm not you, but you see a drawing that's a little simplified, that could be you, it could be me, and the more you simplify it, the more people it could be. And it's a bit like Pete Buttigieg's message, or Barack Obama's.
It's a Rorschach test.
Simplify these ideas to like hope and change, or cheese, or whatever Buttigieg's slogan was.
Well, that's what that's what I say about Make America Great Again as well. Is these are all like Rorschach ink blot tests. Like everybody's going to see in it whatever they want to see.
But you actually put yourself into it. It's not necessarily what you see. It's you're actually putting yourself into that politician, and that's a lot of the reasons why people stand a lot of these politicians, like the K-Hive, because they've put themselves into these people. And I don't think that necessarily everybody in the K-Hive is as ghoulish as Kamala Harris could be, but I think that there's something that Kamala Harris does that they see within themselves that they want to be, and because of this idea talked about in Understanding Comics, they want to be able to they put themselves into these politicians.
Interesting. They see. Go ahead. Sorry.
And I think also whenever they see the quote unquote Bernie Bros, they're assuming that the Bernie Bros are putting themselves into Bernie Sanders, and a lot of the Bernie Bros, and I'm sure there absolutely are some people who do that. But I would argue that the majority, at least of the volunteers that I've spoken with, don't care about Bernie Sanders, because he wants to do the same things that they actually want to do, or they can see that he's the guy who can get it closer for them to get their political goals met.
It's about policy.
Kind of the idea from what's his name? Ben Jealous. He had this great quote that I always throw out. You don't pick a politician because they match your values. You pick a politician because you think they're the easiest person to get your policies, your plans, your ideas passed. He said it much better than me.
I see. So basically somebody looks at Kamala Harris wearing her Chuck Taylor Converse, right? And they flash back to, I remember when I used to wear those and completely destroyed all the arches in my feet because they have no arch support or whatever. Like, that's cool, man. Like, those shoes are like Tim's. Yeah. Oh yeah. They just have the worst soles ever, Chuck Taylor Converse. And I'm flat footed, so they did not help me. No. But and then
around in the woods in those things.
Oh geez, and they have the holes in the side. Yeah, I mean everything's getting in there. But and then also for Bernie fans, I mean, and that was very much the shallow kind of identity politic based attack. Was like, oh, it's because he's a man and Hillary's a woman, right? There was that kind of thing that accusation of being projected. I personally identify with Bernie as someone normalizing bad posture, right? Talking with the bad posture, and speaking with your hands.
And being very, very angry about things and being very passionate.
Yeah. Talking loud. I get accused of talking loud quite a bit, especially when I'm around people. I go, what? Sorry, everyone needs to hear what the important things I have to say.
I am deaf, and I have no internal volume control.
Oh man.
I'm stone deaf in this ear.
Say what?
I cannot hear out of my left ear.
Oh no! What? Too many rock shows?
No, I was born that way.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Well,
just
fascinating.
like Lady Gaga.
She can only hear out of one ear?
No, but she was born that way.
You're educating me today, man. I did not know. Damn,
No,
that's interesting.
she's not deaf in one ear. She was just born that way. That's one of her
Oh,
songs.
man, I never know. J. Andrew World, you're the king. You got a deadpan like no other. I never know when you're joking. Well, I do most of the time, but more than half the time, I guess I fall into it like a Rambo
I
trap.
just swerve right into these jokes, and
I fall into them like a Rambo punji stick trap, impale my feet. Man, that is funny. But the last question before we wrap it up here is the other interesting thing that I find about your work is like how tradition of cartooning as political discourse and as political message sending, because like political cartoons are as old as politics pretty much.
older. Yeah, no, it's not older.
Well, of
But
course.
older than the comic medium that we tend to think of.
Yeah,
before the yellow journalism of the turn of the century, Yellow Kid. You can go back to like the founding of our country. I mean, the Separated Snake is a political cartoon from our 100th president, Benjamin Franklin.
Oh yeah,
That's how they do presidents, right?
Oh yeah, that's how. Yeah,
Ben
that's
Franklin's
it.
the 100th.
Bro,
George
I just
Washington's
got
the first.
accepted. I just got accepted to my college of choice for a history degree, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Oh my god! So wait, you're talking about the Separated Snake? That was a political cartoon by Ben Franklin.
If I remember correctly.
What? That's cool. The Join or Die.
Yeah. Back to the whole like "Don't tread on me, Gadsden's flag" kind of thing.
Interesting.
It was
yeah, the colonies. Yeah. Okay.
It was published in one of his printing presses back after he was stopped being Postmaster General.
Very interesting.
He was the postmaster of the colonies under the Queen, under the King.
Oh, okay.
And because the military was going through people's mail, he quit
in protest.
Yes,
he threw his powdered wig to the floor,
and that's why he went bald. And the chicks dug him.
Yeah. Oh, dude, he was a hound. He was a real hound.
But yeah, I mean, like political cartoons go back even further than that. Because remember the smallpox vaccine back in like the 1600s, if I remember correctly, and was it Italy?
They had a smallpox vaccine back then.
It was one of those because it was from the cowpox.
Yeah.
Because people would actually get injected with cowpox, and there's this like 16th or 15th century, I can't remember, like right around whenever they kind of come up with this cartoon where like cows are growing out of people's arms. And maybe I've got the dates wrong. I could be.
Is it this one here? Check this out. Is it that?
No.
That's some weird looking stuff, though. It's like a cow eating people. They were very afraid.
There's some weird old comics. but yeah, they actually date back long before they started getting organized. And I think the medium as we know it kind of started to solidify in the yellow journalism at the turn of the century. In the 1990s, with Yellow Kid, Nemo's Adventure in Dreamland, which is still that artwork is beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, and that's actually kind of also, Dr. Seuss, who there's been this big controversy. It's not even a controversy. It's just his estate. Hey, look who's here! Hey, Ben. Ben Burgis. Holy shit! It's J. Andrew World. J. Andrew World, the illustrator and comic artist. Yeah, who hung out with Kevin Smith in the 90s, and many other stories. But that's great. Thanks for being here, Ben. I love your show. And I just finished your book this the other day. give them an argument. Also, the name of his show. So very cool. Oh my gosh, we got a celebrity watching the show. This is amazing. An internet left YouTube celebrity. So, but I got one right here on the show. So there's John. Hey, it's Ben Burgis. The Surfs did a really funny video with Ben, and they did this thing. It's Logic Professor Ben Burgis. I really love the Surfs.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah,
I had fun working with them.
Oh, what'd you do for the Surfs?
I did the Joe Rogan 2.
Oh,
I did this poster where it's like big head of Joe Rogan, big head of Alex Jones, and then like they're little characters, but they're all like ninjas.
oh, okay.
I had more time. I would have put in like explosion, but I was trying to paint this thing and just trying to figure out how to do that on my iPad.
Your art for the Apocalypse Now episode of Ben's show looks your what's his name? Your Brando looks kind of like Joe Rogan a bit. Don't you
A bit, yeah. There's a Joe Rogan thing here. But
oh my god!
I don't know why I keep having to draw Joe Rogan.
Yeah, well, he's ubiquitous in the podcast world. You would be amazed at the people who, just regular. People wonder why Jordan Peterson became so popular. It's my opinion that Joe Rogan handed all of these goofballs careers when he brought them on his show. Jordan Peterson, Tim Pool to a certain degree, even Gavin McInnes, was on Joe Rogan back in the day. There are all these different real goons who, just rose in prominence because they got on Joe Rogan's show, and then they would.
You saw that paper, right?
What paper?
There's a paper about how there's this web of guests that they keep doing, and like certain people act as gateways, and then they because of the same guests showing up on all these different shows, people start finding the other shows that they're on, and they get further and further. And before you know it, they're like watching that bald Nazi from Canada.
Stefan Ball, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Bald Nazi from Canada. That's
just call it like I see it.
Right on the nose. That's what you got to do. I'm just shooting down through your Instagram and just seeing some great stuff, man. Like like Old Dirty Bastard of the Wu-Tang Clan. Like, wow.
Oh yeah, ODB. I went a little too bright on those highlights.
Oh, well,
it drives me nuts.
We could forgive you. Hey, Shahid Buttar. Crazy what they did. Yeah. How deep into the? I was looking for the thing you did to the Surfs. Oh, cool. Here's the rough draft of the Elliot Abrams.
That was when I was trying to figure out how to upload things.
All right. Well, we'll cut that out. But very cool, man. Is there anything else you can think to add? I put up earlier where people can follow you on Twitter. I'll put it up again. But where else can people?
Yeah, that's my Twitter, Instagram. I have a kind of dormant YouTube channel, but there's some cool stuff on there.
There is some cool stuff on there. Boot it back up, Andy, please.
Yeah. I have to, there's a lot of time I need to take to actually go in and figure out like what software I need, and then try to figure out how not to disturb my kids in class.
Yeah. They're in Zoom classes, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Although things are changing, so we'll.
Of course.
I got an email earlier tonight. I have not checked yet with my kids' schedule. So.
All right. Geez. Well, we're just trying to make it all work. I got my first shot a week or two ago, so that's nice. But we're just all trying to make it. But it's at right about now too, right? That's where
on Twitter and Instagram. Yes.
Yep. And I was watching some of your YouTube videos, and I liked the ones where you were drawing like somebody doing some work and just talking about it. That's a great thing. And if you're wondering stuff you need, I could help you out with my limited information.
No,
chat about
the software programs I used changed, and I just I could not. I kept downloading stuff, and nothing was working, and I just eventually gave up in frustration because so only to draw that, finish that Mario Lopez.
Well, there's only so many hours in the day, and sometimes it can just be overwhelming. So I totally understand the feeling. But thank you for being on the show, J. Andrew World. I have to admit, you've been a big supporter of mine from the beginning. Just you're a real social butterfly on the social medias, and it's just good. You're a fountain of positivity and connecting people, and and you've connected me to really interesting stuff like on comics or all the different random musical references you sent me. And you're always like, "You've heard about this, right?" And I'm like embarrassed to say, "No, man, that's way too obscure for me."
Oh,
But
it's okay, but you enjoy it, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That Tashiki song was hilarious. I was busting up.
Yeah, that was Monopuff,
Yeah.
which is They Might Be Giants side project.
Oh, okay. Well, I just learned something new
Yeah.
again. J. Andrew World, encyclopedic mind. Anything else you want to say before to the audience before we wrap it up here?
Not a whole lot. I know if you want to check out some of my album artwork, my last CD was New Wave Hits from the 80s.
Oh, cool.
Which was a lot of fun because I'm friends with the front man of the band, and he put up a bad album cover, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't know how to make something look like an old record, like the ring wear on a record. So I just started making stuff and using his album title and band name on it, and I was just doing like different genres, and trying to figure out how to make the ring wear work on it. And if you look at Ben Burgis's logo on his on his YouTube thing here, you can actually see that ring. I've learned how to do that. And he's just like looked at the third one I did and just said, "This is better than anything I could come up with. Why don't you do the album cover?" And so that's how I got the album cover for Out. It's a great album, so check it out. I'm really proud that my artwork's on some really good music, as well as some really good words as Michael Brooks's book. I don't see any more money for these things, so that's fine. I got my payment for it already.
Yeah. Do you have a Patreon?
I do. It is sorely out of date. I need to get that thing updated. The plan is to start releasing these pages from the book up there once a week. I need to clear a few things first, but I got to get some proposals done before I can really focus on that.
All right. J. Andrew World, he's got a book in the works. You know him from so many places now. The artist in chief for Ben Burgis' show, the cover of Michael Brooks's book, of course, Against the Web. Also, when you see, I will be live streaming tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, so that's 9:30 out there on the East Coast. My regular Political Pain show, and I have a little intro music and my logo and all that stuff. And that as well was drawn by the multi-talented, very knowledgeable, very amiable, fun guy to talk to, J. Andrew World. Thanks again for being on, Jay.
Thank you,
Andy. Sorry, Andy. You prefer to be called Andy, but all right, cool. We will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for being here, and thanks again, Andy, for joining Political Pain Live.